Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this match, we're going to have a showdown between Bretonnia, led by the Fey Enchantress, and the Empire, who's going to be led by the meme lord himself, Balthazar Gelt. But without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So for the forces of Bretonnia, quite a few mobile troops as you would expect. We do have the Knights of the Lionhearted here on the far side, so these are the Regiment of Renown of the Knights of the Realm. Just a better stat line across the board, and I think they do also have encouragement, which I don't think regular Knights of the Realm have, so they can help the leadership of all the peasants nearby who are being run over by greatswords and cannons and all that kind of fun stuff. So Knights of the Realm here. On top of that, he does have a couple more regiments for now. I think he does have the Defenders of Fleur de Lis, which are Knight Errants, and they're actually pretty good. If you can use the Defenders to run over state troops like unbraced spearmen or even against greatswords or swordsmen or stuff like that, they can generate some pretty good value. You probably don't want them to be fighting like enemy heavy cav like Demogryph Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun, Reiksguard, but nonetheless a pretty good kind of anti-infantry cav unit. On top of that, he does also have Grail Knights here, so these guys are the heavy hitters. So if there are Demogryph Knights, these are going to be the ones just going fisticuffs, anti-large, charge bonus of 78, massive physical resist, definitely a very solid unit. On the far side, one more group of Grail Knights, and he does have some mounted yeomen, so he has the Wardens of Montfort here, and then also a standard group of mounted yeomen without the bows here. So these guys probably going to be going after handgunners. I definitely like that quite a bit, because as you guys know, the best way to kind of take on the Empire, in my opinion, is to go very wide, and having all of these units harassing is definitely going to stretch the micro of both players. So he's got the Wardens here. For his main force, it's going to be mainly men-at-arms, so just like low tier spearmen at arms with shields, which are a really, really solid unit. Relatively high melee defense with 34, and yeah, these are actually the spearmen, or men-at-arms with shields. I think he has spearmen at arms. Do they have higher melee defense? 38 compared to 34? Oh, so the spears do have higher melee defense, which is interesting. So a bunch of spearmen, just kind of low-tier chaff units in the front line. He does have a Grail Relique here, which is going to be providing immunity to psychology and leadership to these men-at-arms. A couple of groups of peasant archers, which are a really good answer to handgunners and cannons and things like that. So I like that quite a bit from him. And for his leadership, he's just got the Fey Enchantress. So yeah, a lot of cav. It's going to be extremely micro-intensive here for Bretonnia, but looking forward to seeing them in action. And for the forces of the Empire, he does have Balthazar Gelt up here in the sky. He has Final Transmutation. He actually brought 4 spells, which is heavy duty. If you plan on using Final Transmutation, I mean, you can use Final Transmutation once, but from there you got to start diversifying your spells. Otherwise, you're not really going to have enough to use another Final Transmutation. It's very, very expensive if you're going to overcast it, that is. For his mainline force, he does have a couple groups of greatswords, so in total I think he has 3, some spearmen on the flanks, always a pretty good choice against Bretonnia, spears and halberds. He's got halberds in the back. He does himself have the Royal Altdorf Gryphite, so he does have some anti-cav here. I believe on the other side he has standard Demogryph Knights with halberds, definitely going to be pretty good against most of the Bretonnian cav units, because there's going to be a ton of pressure coming in, so it's going to be really nice having these guys. And last but not least, he does have the Hammer of the Witches. Now, Hammer of the Witches, a great choice against Bretonnia. Not only is it an extremely accurate, powerful cannon, which on its own merit would be pretty good against Bretonnia, but it also does magic damage. So against the Bretonnian Knights, who do have a pretty substantial physical resist, it's going to be very, very good stuff. But without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So the Bretonnian peasants marching forward valiantly, getting ready to meet some of these greatswords in combat. Over here on the far side, some skirmishing already. We do see that the Silver Bolts, who do have stock, so the Bretonnian player didn't see them coming, was able to get a full volley here on the Wardens and do some really, really good damage. So good stuff there from the Silver Bolts initially. In the meantime, though, the mounted yeomen are circling around, but it looks like the Demogryph Knights are going to be going after them, so it's going to be a little bit micro-intensive, but mounted yeomen 92 speed compared to 75. So if the Bretonnian player is careful, those Demogryph Knights shouldn't catch them by any stretch of the imagination. So the spearmen don't have shields here, so the archers are just going to start picking on them. I foresee them switching onto the Silver Bolts here in a moment, and it looks like these Grail Knights are just going to go balls deep, just pushing through these spearmen who are not braced, and they're going to be going right after the Silver Bolts. And you can see he's very aggressively pathing them. And yeah, those guys definitely want to get put. So some of those Silver Bolts getting pounded pretty hard by those Knights. But some of the Knights do get caught up on spears, but those spearmen were not braced. So they just got dumpstered by the charge. The Wardens of Montfort coming in the back, realizing how important it is to get rid of the Silver Bullets in the Bretonnian matchup. Like, you need those gone, because they hit like trucks against your Knights. So allocates a lot of resources. The frontline engagement's underway. The Greatsword's going to make very, very quick work of most of these Bretonnian troops here in the front line. You can see the Bretonnian spearmen are already routing in many areas. Final Transmutation, though, a very, very good play here by the Empire player. Balthazar Gelt dropping it on this big blob here, so it hits the Knights, it hits the Wardens, hits the Grail Knights, and the Fey Enchantress as well, who does have very good magic resist, so it's not going to be as good, but nonetheless, he got a ton of value. And then it looks like the Knights of Bretonnia are going to be charging into the back, so that's like kind of a classic Bretonnian tactic. Harass the back line when they react to you, then slam into the front line, retreat back through the front, and rinse and repeat. So very, very good stuff. The Grail Knights, with the favor of the Fey, are able to charge in there, do some pretty good work. Grail Knights here, it looks like they're actually fighting some spears. So with the Fey Enchantress, they should be able to cut these spears down quickly, but still they might take some unnecessary casualties there. Balthazar Gelt dropping burning bolts here on the Peasant Bowmen, and it looks like Demogryph Knights, the Royal Altdorf Gryphites do get through, and they're just going to have a massive charge right here. So they're not like Reichsguard or Knights of the Blazing Sun that are really designed for like punishing charges against infantry, but nonetheless, they still are not pushovers in that respect. Balthazar Gelt also comes in there, so shutting down pretty much the entire Bretonnian missile corps here in just a moment. And I'm pretty sure they're just going to ride right through and go after these peasant bowmen. And at the very least, they're going to terror out those guys, because the Royal Outdoor Fights do cause terror. In the back, there are the defenders of Fleur de Lis. The Bretonnian player maybe forgot about them. He might have sent them on an order and kind of just, forgot they were sitting there. So hopefully you can get them re-engaged here in just a moment. The Royal Outdoor Fights continuing to fight against the peasant archers, and Balthazar Gelt getting in there with his golden pimp cane and doing some pretty good work against these guys. But the battle is very, very even at this point. The Bretonnians have secured this flank for the most part. The Knights were able to run over the greatswords with the spearmen holding them in place. And a lot of the Imperial forces pretty tattered. The handgunners beat up as well. And the Wardens, I think, the Wardens are able to get into the cannon, the Hammer of the Witches. But the Hammer of the Witches cannon crew stands firm, which is going to be so huge for the Empire. I mean, had he been able to break that, that would have been huge for Bretonnia. But he does respond pretty quickly with the Demogryph Knights and is able to fend those guys off. So if we take a look at the battle from an overarching perspective here, the handgunners are just kind of sitting and shooting. He does have greatswords guarding them as well as spears. So this is a really, really good situation. The Grail Knights here just taking a massive pounding here from the handgunners, getting worn down a little bit, and it looks like there's some sort of healing going off. No, that's actually Arcane Conduit. He does also have a Paladin on the ground, which I forgot to mention. So the Paladin and the Fey Enchantress is going to be taking it to the Royal Outdoor Griffites. Paladins do, of course, have anti-large, and Fey Enchantress isn't a pushover with her Drain. She does also lower the melee attack of nearby troops. So they're able to fend off those guys, which is pretty solid. The Grail Knights swooping in to potentially help. Over on the far side, the Spearmen-at-Arms trying to get onto those handgunners, but he is playing very defensively with these greatswords, and they should be able to chop down these peasants, so definitely unfortunate for them. But the Knights of Bretonnia coming in with a rear charge against those greatswords don't have charge defense, so it wouldn't matter anyways. But nonetheless, these greatswords still have 83 models. The Fey Enchantress definitely going to help, lowers their melee attack to 27. But the Knights are pretty tattered here, still taking some damage from the greatswords, but yeah, very back and forth stuff. And here it's going to be a pretty cataclysmic charge right here. You can see the Demogryph Knights are going to be charging in against Grail Knights. Fey Enchantress supporting, but they're heavily outnumbered. I mean, I think the numbers are relatively speaking the same, but the Demogryph Knights pound for pound are much stronger. They only come with 18 models, of course. But Balthazar Gelt's going to need to lend some aid because the Fey Enchantress is going to make a pretty huge difference here. She's going to be lowering their combat stats, and you can see the Demogryph Knights taking a massive amount of damage from the Paladins. And of course the healing is going off as well, so the Fey Enchantress does get that Earthblood. Balthazar Gelt actually going into melee. Really, this is a huge battle right here. I mean, these Demogryph Knights are basically representative of a huge, of the remaining power level of the Empire. So they're in here fighting. The greatswords also collapse, so very good stuff. Getting those Imperial infantry back in there and pinning down the Bretonnian Knights. And the Demogryph Knights should be able to chase them off, if not, maim them pretty badly right here. So it looks like they are sweeping in to go after something over here. Maybe they were just kind of retreating there for a moment, but the Fey Enchantress is forced back, but another massive group. So, aha, it was a plan all along. The defenders of Fleur de Lis, who I think were forgotten about, are now coming in. So this is going to be a pretty surprising thing, because I think the Imperial player wasn't really used to them being on the battlefield, but the Demogryph Knights are going to be charging in, but some of the Grail Knights getting a huge charge on those greatswords, doing some pretty good damage. And it looks like there's going to be a final transmutation going down on the defenders, which isn't a bad idea. I mean, there's not too many other healthy Bretonnian forces around the battlefield. There's some peasant archers and some other troops rallying over here, but for the most part, that was the biggest powerhouse the Bretonnians had left. So the defenders take quite a bit of damage from that final transmutation. The Royal Altdorf Griffites just pushing in, just causing problems wherever they go. Over here, it looks like there's going to be a regrowth, or an Earthblood, I would imagine. Looks like it's going to be a regrowth on those Grail Knights, which he definitely needs. So you can see here, Balthazar Gelt getting a little bit crumbed. He's charging in, just going fisticuffs. That is very dangerous, and you guys can see in the distance, the Hammer of the Witches is still online. So if the Empire player can keep the Hammer of the Witches firing, I think he's going to be in pretty good shape here. But the Grail Knights falling back, they should just turn it and charge right here. But I don't know, it's tough. The Demogryph Knights have 21 models. They're swooping in. As far as speed goes, 75 here, and the Demogryph Knights have 75 as well. So it's a bit of a wash, and I feel like these Grail Knights are going to get caught, because when units are charging, they then accelerate a little bit before the charge. So Balthazar Gelt swooping in as well, but you can see these Grail Knights are being hard microed. The Bretonnian players just force pathing them, doing a very good job. But alas, the Demogryph Knights are going to catch them and at least get a couple kills here against those guys. So over here, a bit of a better situation. The Paladin has jumped on the cannon. It looks like he's going to break them. The Fey Enchantress comes in. Her draining aura is going to start taxing those guys. You can see that guy just had enough of the Mist of the Lady. So they do shut down the Hammer of the Witches, which is huge for Bretonnia. So very, very well played. There's just so much going on in this game, so much micro. So right here, the handgunners are 56 models, but those Grail Knights realize they're a little bit doomed against the Demogryph Knights, so they're just going to go all in, and they get a really, really good charge against those handgunners. Just, shrecking them pretty good. They're wavering. They're probably going to break off here, so getting rid of all the ranged tools of the Empire is really going to be super solid. But this is dangerous for the Paladin, getting fully surrounded by these Demogryph Knights. You could also see that Balthazar Gelt's in there. Favor of the Fae has been dropped on the Paladin. He's probably going to try and pull out. That's what she said, but I don't know if it's going to work out for him. He's probably going to be stuck in there for a little bit, although it looks like the Demogryph Knights are pulling back. I definitely would have liked to have seen those guys stay on the Paladin. I think that would have been pretty good there. Anyways, the Bretonnian player is going to be going after the handgunners. Over here, we do have the Defenders of Fleur de Lis going to be chasing down the Spearmen. Definitely good stuff. Some archers from the Peasant Hordes are actually back, and they're going to be taking some pot shots to the Royal Altar of Gryphite. So these guys are the true heroes of Bretonnia. So as we watch this glorious cinematic, and take a sip of water here. But yeah, let's see. The Royal Altar of Gryphite's charging in. 300 HP, 10 leadership. Are they going to get in? And it looks like they are going to get in before they break, and now the peasants are pretty much doomed. However, the noble knights of Bretonnia, the defenders, are going to be charging in true to their name, and they are going to be defending these peasants and actually taking out the Royal Altar of Gryphites, who are extremely tattered. They only had like a couple hundred HP, so very good stuff there. But Balance of Power is still dead. Even Balthazar Gelt does have his contingent of Demogryph Knights with halberds over here. On top of that, there's a ton of rallying Imperial forces. Sigmar's Sons, Spears, 53 halberds here on the far side. The Hammer of the Witches crew is coming back. And there are a couple handgunners over there as well. It looks like there's going to be 21 models, but for some reason they're broken. They must have just taken too much damage over the course of this game, although it looks like they are kind of stabilizing with one leadership. But here's the big fight here. You can see the defenders as well as these Demogryph Knights and everyone just piling in. The Empire Spears, the 8 Grail Knights who are still fighting. Just a very, very pitched fight, but the Fae Enchantress is just so damn good at changing the course of the battle with the Mist of the Lady and of course the support of the Paladin. This anti-large providing guardian to the Fae Enchantress should she be attacked has been really, really good. And I think a lot of the engagements have been decided by the Fae Enchantress coming in with her aura and her healing. But you can see the Hammer of the Witches is online and it's starting to shoot at these Grail Knights. We're definitely a pretty good target. I mean, there's not too many other targets left. Now there are 7, but the Fae Enchantress is keeping them aloft, and it looks like the Demogryph Knights are shattered, so the Bretonnian player definitely going to want to pull those guys back. So over here, the Paladin is actually in an epic duel with Balthazar Gelt, and he's doing a pretty good job. So the Empire player, realizing Balthazar is a little bit outmatched, looks like he was bringing in these Spearmen, although they might have been going after the Bowmen. But yeah, that Paladin getting some really good value. Plague of Rust being dropped, so Balthazar Gelt just wanting to just go fisticuffs, just wanting to fight here. Spearmen charging in, and you should be able to shut down those peasants. So if we look at the battlefield, the Bretonnian player does have a couple scattered infantry pockets here, 28 here and 33 Spearmen over there. The Fae Enchantress and some Grail Knights should be able to win this engagement versus Spears. Maybe with the Mist of the Lady, I don't know. It's hard to say. The Paladin's here as well. Balthazar Gelt, of course, is going to be forced away, and I do think that the Spearmen probably won't be able to hold here simply because of the Mist of the Lady. Although it looks like he's going to be pulling back. I probably would have liked to see him stay there just to finish off the Spearmen and maybe save these Peasant Archers. Yeah, there. So he's just going to be cycle charging. So very good stuff from the Bretonnian player there. The Empire player as well, doing a very good job rallying his forces. He's got the Great Swords, he's got Sigmar's Sons, 43 of those bad boys. Now these guys are unbreakable, they have really good combat stats, 111 kills, definitely performing very well. Balthazar Gelt might have a few more tricks up his sleeve, but again, he's probably pretty low on Winds of Magic at this point, so we'll go ahead and fast forward as both players do kind of posture up and figure out what's going on here. So you can see the Peasant Bowmen are going to be pushing, the Bretonnians pushing in, but these long, final climactic battles are always so good for the Fae Enchantress. Granted, I think the troop quality of the Empire is a little bit better. He has halberds, he has great swords, he has Sigmar's Sons. Balthazar Gelt swooping in and actually picking off a peasant. Oh, that was so dangerous. That could have just been disastrous if he had been caught or taken any damage. But here comes the final engagement. The Knights of Bretonnia going to be charging in, the Grail Knights and the Fae Enchantress, right into those great swords here. And quite a heroic scene here. But there are some halberds kind of intermixed there. So the halberds probably will get at least a kill or two on the retaliation. But again, if the Bretonnian player does pull back quick enough, he could certainly be in pretty good shape. And that Fae Enchantress drain is just so powerful. It's going to be hitting all these troops. And did he lose a Grail Knight? Oh, looks like he still has 7 models. He had 7 when he came in. A couple of them are kind of lagging here in the back, so maybe the halberds will be able to pick him up. But no, it looks like all of the Knights of Bretonnia are going to be able to escape, and they got massive value. Just look at the HP damage they did. Supporting the Fae Enchantress there. But Balthazar Gelt just memeing so hard over here and swooping up in the air in the last second. He's actually able to beat up that Paladin using the Plague of Rust, which is so cool. Some of these Spearmen, of course, for the Empire charging in for their people, but they're not going to have the best of luck, as there are some pretty elite forces there. So now the Bretonnian forces are going to be falling back. You can see they're wavering at the mere sight of those, quote-unquote elite Empire forces. The Great Swords and the halberds and Sigmar's Sons chasing them down. Balthazar, if he swoops in and just attacks them, they're probably going to break. And at that point, you could just chase them off the battlefield. But yeah, this is honestly anyone's game. It's really going to depend on how effective these halberds are. The Empire player should definitely turn around right now and brace, because this charge is actually going to hurt pretty bad. You can see their HP is 1700 right now, so let's take note of that. And look at that, 600 damage plus the Fae Enchantress and the Paladin. That is devastating, because that's one of the last anti-large tools that the Empire really has here. You always want to do your best to brace for those charges. But you can see the Grail Knights do take some casualties, so they take 4 casualties on that engagement. They have to fall back, and the Fae Enchantress, a little bit surrounded here, taking some anti-large damage from the halberds and spears, but the spears, or the halberds actually pretty pretty bad shape here. Only 12 leadership. The Knights of Bretonnia again coming in with the cycle charge. And it looks like some of those spearmen are rallying here in the distance, but what is this? Oh, I thought Balthazar Gel. He's using the Staff of Lance and some of his other items, but he does charge in, and he actually takes out the Paladin. So Balthazar Gel coming in with the steel chair. Amazing play from the Empire player with the Balthazar and the Plague of Rust attacks. Those have been wearing down that Paladin all game. So Balthazar Gel pulls back up in the air. Fey Enchantress, does she have any help anywhere on the battlefield? It looks like she does have some spears and some other supporting troops. So right now, the Fey Enchantress needs to get up and around. I mean, a little bit of charging isn't going to be bad either, but I would like to see her kind of unify with the remainders of her spears and then just win through attrition, because her draining aura is going to be really good against these greatswords and other troops. And I cannot believe these Grail Knights are still fighting. 173 kills, truly a very Bretonnian experience. Oh no, and Balthazar Gelt takes a massive charge from the 3 Knights right there, and the Fey Enchantress burning him down. That might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Balthazar just taking a ton of damage. The Spearmen are going to be charging in against Sigmar's Sons. But even still, these Sigmar's Sons are going to be really, really tough to bring down. You know, they have relatively good melee defense at 44 here. So it looks like the Fey Enchantress is able to break off Balthazar Gelt. That might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I think that the Bretonnians are probably going to take this game. Granted, the Sigmar's Sons are just beating the brakes off these guys. I think Fey Enchantress could probably solo them. The Greatswords here are going to be fighting as well, but the Knights, these like 3 Knights have just been so solid MVPs this game. And you know, honestly, you could just use the Grail Knights to chase those guys off. And it looks like a Chalice of Potions coming down, or Balthazar Gelt with a bombardment. So he's coming back in the 4th quarter. Amazing game so far by both players. And you can see the Burning Bolts is going to just be wrecking those Spearmen at Arms. So now it's up to the Grail Knights and the Fey Enchantress. And despite the balance of power situation, it's still a very close game. The 30 Sigmar Sons there fighting to the bitter end. Balthazar Gelt, oh man, that's dangerous. Good micro by the Empire player there, pulling back, making sure he didn't commit to that, where the Fey Enchantress could have, you know, turned around and Kamehameha him in the face with her Dragon Ball Z action. But the Sigmar Sons pushing in. They got 28 models. They're going to be going after the Greatswords, most likely. Not Greatswords, the Grail Knights. But this is pretty much it, guys. This is the final showdown. And the Knights of Bretonnia and the Knight of Bretonnia. There's only one. Oh, and Balthazar Gelt coming in to finish him off. Is he going to get him? I think the Gelt man. Oh, and he takes the Knight out. And now Balthazar Gelt just needs to hide by the Sigmar Sons. And are they going to be able to do it? 25 models. The drain is going off. Balthazar Gelt might as well just sit up in the air. And I don't think either players have anything else here. So the Fey Enchantress is probably going to do some cycle charging, I would imagine. You know, with her Unicorn, definitely not a bad idea. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this could be either player's game. But I think with the side, like the Unicorn just charging in and charging back out, I mean, yeah, you can see she's taking some damage here, but Fey Enchantress is sturdy, and she does lower the melee attack of those troops, and yeah, I don't think there's enough damage output. Balthazar Gelt coming in with the steel chair again in the back, so if he can like respond with Gelt and not take a damage on the return using his flying, he might be able to pull this out. 400, 286 HP, that's dangerous. If Balthazar breaks the army losses, I think that's 100% going to be it. So at this point, Fey Enchantress cleans up the last of the troops, and that's going to be it. So what an amazing game by Monstrance Clock and Hero of Rome. That was just solid micro by both players, just a true masterclass. It was, I mean, of course, there were some mistakes like with the defenders and all that, but still, it was just super well played by both players. I mean, man, that was a treat to watch and cast as well. So big thanks to Monstrance. I'm not sure who sent that in, if it was Monstrance or Hero, but again, I think it was Monstrance Clock. So thank you for sending that one in. It was truly amazing. But as far as the armies go, I really like the Bretonnian army. That's the way you deal with Empire. You just go super wide, you compromise their cannons and their very expensive handgunners, and, well, not super expensive, but, you know, the pieces that are really going to be good against Bretonnian Knights. So I like the Bretonnian build quite a bit. I thought it was diverse and had some good tactics going on there. And for Hero of Rome's build, I liked it. The Greatswords did well. I mean, the Sigmar Sons in his front line, they held their own. The cannon did pretty well. Demogryph Knights all performed. I mean, that was anyone's game. That was just so damn close and back and forth that yeah, it could have gone either way. So again, very well played to Monstrance Clock and Hero of Rome. Thank you guys for the great game, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this community cast. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.